There are a lot of really cool parts about this gig, but one of the coolest, I have to tell you, is getting to catch up with the great Del Warren at the Kegel Training Center. He's got some exciting stuff coming up there, and oh, by the way, he's coming to Wisconsin. I'm Andrew Pfeffer, the host of Bowling with the Pfeff. I also created it and produce it, and this is Hot Topics. He has been on Hot Topics a couple times before, and it's always a pleasure to get caught up with the great Del Warren from the Kegel Training Center and Weber International men's head coach. Del, welcome to Hot Topics.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I always looking forward to being on your show and talking to your fans out there. And we always have some interesting discussions, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do. And the IPSIA membership is always glad to hear from someone of your caliber, be it about coaching or other things. But let's kind of start about coaching and the coaching opportunities that people may find at the training center coming up.
Yeah. So let's talk about this two ways. So as we know, Gold Coach Rick Wilsey retired back in March after serving 15 years for Kegel. So I've been actually looking for another coach. So I've interviewed a few people here in the last couple of months, and I'm still doing my interview process and really looking for the next generation of coaches at the training center. And it's been an interesting search so far. And so, yeah, we're looking for brighter, younger, enthusiastic coaches with new ideas, with all different backgrounds. And of course, as really as much as college bowling has grown, you're starting to see more and more former players are now coaches in collegiate bowling.
Yeah.
And they're being very, very successful. Two of our former alumni, Haley Beach from Tulane, and of course Katie Thornton from SCAD are an example of two coaches that are doing wonderful jobs in those two programs. So we're looking for the next generation of coaches. So there's a job opportunity at Kegel. And then as far as coaching, certainly we have our summer camps coming up. We always have a two-handed camp, also a physical game camp that's one-handed and two-handed this summer. And then, of course, probably one of our more popular events, because it's with my good friend Dr. Dean Hennitz, our advanced camp, which is focusing mostly on lane play and the mental side of the game, and how, the biggest challenge for players, especially today, is the environment.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with north of 30 mils of oil now. We're dealing with, a combination of urethane and reactive balls going down the lane. And especially like in junior gold, for example, in the first two rounds of qualifying, you got a vast difference in styles and experience and skills. You have people playing all over the lane. You're crossing, you're going big differences on pairs, not just how they're playing them, but what they're using. So, of course, in that camp, it's not just what to look for in terms of how you're making your decisions, but how do you mentally handle that? Can you stay confident in the moment with your decisions and commit to those decisions? And then as you're trying to figure out the lane, can you stay more in an objective, creative, kind of investigative mode? And when you have a couple of bad frames because you're just trying to figure it out, can you not lose confidence during the process? Yeah. So I love what we do in that camp, because we spend, 3 days looking at all the elements and spending a lot of time on the lanes with the coaches, but then you get one full day with Dr. Dean, kind of piecing it all together. And that's when I get to be a student. And I love that camp. And of course I get to really get to spend some personal time with him as well. So we're going to be busy as heck this summer with different offerings. And then, of course, we have our half-day and full-day lessons, which we have a lot of kids coming in right now. It's the end of the school year, and they're coming in to get ready for of course, Teen Masters, Junior Gold, SYC, um, and a lot of them are graduating high school and they're getting ready for their college career. So we're quite busy.
Yeah. With all the students that end up leveling up at the Kegel Training Center, you've also got coaches leveling up through a program called KCMP. Tell us about that. What's that all about?
So about a decade ago, Ruben and I and Randy and Rick, um, we recognized that there was a need, that we thought there was a knowledge gap between, what you would get at level one, bronze and silver, and of course going into your gold. There was two gaps. One between the practical application of what you actually, the skills required on the lanes. And, the number one skill that we use as coaches every day is, you evaluate a player, you get on video, and you error correct. You look at their physical game, you look for inefficiencies as it relates to scoring, and then of course as it relates to injury prevention. And that's a big one today because the game has evolved to where you need more speed, you need more rev rate, and you need more versatility. Well, those actions, those biomechanics of your game has to come from somewhere. And the coach has to be able to evaluate that correctly. And a lot of times we see coaches looking for the body to do something to make it look a certain way, as opposed to evaluating it just through the elements of scoring. So we recognized there was a big need. And then there was a big gap between the knowledge required to pass silver, which we teach. We teach bronze and silver at Kegel. And the gap between that and gold. Now, gold is the only test that they do that is not open book, meaning you can't use your text to acquire the answer. And so not only is there a big knowledge gap, but there's also a big need to, where do I get that knowledge to be gold? And we recognize that. We about 10 years ago, Ruben and Randy and I did a class called the 12 most common errors in the physical game and how to fix them. And we initially had 25 coaches come to that, including 2 gold coaches. And that was kind of our test market, and they were blown away by it. And then that was the confirmation that there was a real need for this information. And then Ruben and I did a class up in Chicago, a 2-day class only on timing. That's it. Different timing systems, because everybody has, we look at the physical game as a system, and how to evaluate that system in terms of who the athlete was and what environment are they bowling in, and then how to develop that timing system so it's more efficient and it's less stressful to the body. And that was 2 days in Chicago. And one of my favorite students is a great friend of mine, Mr. Charlie Tapp, who still bowls with the super seniors. He's a great coach. He coached the Trine men this year and got them all the way, I think, to the quarterfinals. They did a great job. And he's come to many of our classes. And just those 2 classes kind of confirmed that there was a need. So 6 or 7 years ago, we wrote the first program, which is called, or domain called the Direction. And we attack this, and it's a master's program, Kegel Coaching Master's Program. And these are all the elements required for direction, which is the first element of scoring. And we had 28 coaches go through the first one. Now, this is not an open book test, and you have to get 80%. And this is the easiest of the domains. And our pass rate is only 20% the first time.
Wow.
So again, that really told us there was a need for this. There was a knowledge gap. And so from that, the second domain was speed and release. So your first element, the first skill you have to have is your directional skill in bowling. Your second element you have to have speed, and you have to have a release that provides obviously rev rate, axis rotation, tilt. And then variances of those elements. You have to be able to, especially today more than ever, you have to be able to vary those. And therefore, the physical game has to be able to put that arm, your shoulder, and combine with timing to be able to deliver that shot. So that's where speed and release came from. Now, that test is a bit more difficult, and that pass rate was about 15% the first time. You can take the test as many times as you'd like, or you don't have to take the test at all. The test is optional.
Okay.
But you don't get a certificate. Okay, for participation.
Sure.
This is master's material.
Yeah.
Then the third domain was really quite difficult to write because the first outline that Ruben and I and John Janowitz had a hand in this one. So did Krista Sergeyevis, who works for Kegel, who's a graduate of Weber that won a national championship. The first outline was 6 days. And I said, Ruben, no one's going to pay for 6 days. So we got it down to 4, but we kept the 6-day amount of material in there. And this is taking the most complex environment in the history of bowling. You can have the best physical game in the world, Andrew. Yeah. And if you can't move and read lanes and know how to make adjustments, you can't score.
Yeah.
And then, so understanding how to teach that, number one, was something that we had to get our arms around. Number two, how do we put the pieces together for the coaches? So, and we also wrote this domain for bowlers. You can imagine how much there is a need in the world for bowlers on like, how do I adjust?
Yep. People
don't know even how even on house shots, as a matter of fact, there's dry over here and there's wet over here. It's easy for people to line up on the fresh. They don't know how to move and when to move and how much to move, when to change balls. So, believe it or not, 75% of my customers bowl on house shots every week. And they always say the same thing. He goes, I get lined up pretty early, but somewhere in there I get lost. And I always have a dip. And unless I get lucky and guess right, like I don't know what I'm doing, So people don't realize, for example, that at the end of a 4-man team, 3-game league session, over 65% of the volume of the oil is removed.
Wow.
So, you got to make at least 1 ball change and 2 zone changes.
Sure.
If you're going to keep the pocket open. So that's the 4-day class. We just had one of those. It's always interesting for me to read the answers on the test as well. It's very interesting because I remember, I just turned 65 in March. I started in the rubber ball era, and I went on tour with plastic balls and a LT48. I bowled my first tournament. So I've gone through an experience as a player and somebody that worked in the industry, all of the environmental changes. When those environments change, any element that changed what you had to do to score. Sure. And it's very complicated right now. So that was the third element, the third domain. And then the fourth one we wrote a couple of years ago, which was two-handed. We recognized there was a need to be able to teach coaches how to develop two-handed players. And we've had many high school and college coaches go through it. We've had many players go through it. And there's different styles of two-handers emerging right now. Yeah. And you can't mix and match the elements. For example, we believe there's the traditional two-handed style, which was invented by Oscu and Belmo. And there's a reason why, think about it. They didn't see each other bowl until, at least the story I heard was in the World Youth Championships in the late 90s. But they had heard of each other. And if you look at those original videos, their mechanics were quite similar. Now, how did two people develop the same style or similar style with no previous background? That's how the body wants to move. And then this, so we call that the traditional style, and that has quite a different sequence to it, and quite a different an alignment system to it, and a different foot pattern to it. And then there's what we call the perpendicular style, which is like the troop style, the Chris Vise style, where their hips are more traditional relative to the traditional one-handed game, where the hips are perpendicular to the line of play. And the mechanics of that's a little different. The timing system is a little bit different. So we don't combine the two. Some people would say there's hybrid systems to it, but it's really one or the other.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, then you throw the art of coaching in there. So there's an art to that. There's several fundamentals. And Ruben and I believe the fundamentals today is when we look at the greatest of all time, there's a few things they all did. We consider that fundamentals. The rest of what you see are options. But with the options, there are certain elements that have to go with the options.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what we teach in KCMP. It's very high level stuff, required if you're going to coach in this environment effectively. This isn't to replace any of the coaching certifications that are out there. And of course, you have European level 1, 2, 3, which is excellent. You have bronze, silver, and gold. And then in Asia, they also have their own certification. Of course, Ruben is familiar working with Sid Allen in the Asian. And I've been able, through Ruben's relationship, gotten to know Sid Allen very well. He and Ruben have probably developed these types of systems more than anybody in the world. And we've been able to, because of my relationship with Ruben the last decade, being at Kegel, we've been able to tap into that as part of the resource that we used to develop KCMP. And you're seeing notice the international players that are bowling quite well on the PWBA tour right now, and also the PBA tour.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them came out of Sid and Ruben's developmental systems. One of the most famous ones is Diana Zaviolova, because Ruben and Sid started the Lothian bowling program when they didn't have one. And she was one of the first, youth players that came out. I actually have video of Diana when she was 12 and she was in pigtails, and she had a 4-step approach. And I told her when she was in college, I said, if you upset me, I'm going to share that with the world. So that's my that's my little token for Diana, but so it's really, Kegel Training Center was, when John hired me, was to say, your job is to study the sport, look at the environment, which is, Kegel has a big footprint there as well. Now we're also doing the lanes on our equipment does the lanes on the PBA tour now, after about a 21-year hiatus. And we have our hand in every world bowling event, college bowling, and so we're a big factor in the environment in the world. And then I come from the bowling ball side and the player side as well. So having that background helps me kind of stay on top of things. And we're having to change our coaching philosophy all the time, because it's the environment that dictates the techniques.
Yep.
So, and it's constantly developing.
Yeah.
And studying and working with great players. Ruben and I are actually working today for the next eight or 9 days. We have 2 world-class players in from Macau. And they are quite good. So I looked at Ruben and I said, when you get a great player, we do the initial specto evaluation. It's like, okay, how are we not going to screw this up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So working with a high-level player is quite different. And that's what one of the skills that KCMP teaches you, because working with an everyday player, a lot of them, just need, fundamentals, and getting to the foul line consistently and getting that ball to arrive the right way. As the skill gets better, now all of a sudden the game gets quite complex. Yeah. So that's why I'm really proud of the work we've done at KCMP. I know John would be very proud. And I know a lot of the coaches that have gone through it now have the comments that they're making on how they evaluate customers have completely changed how they coach. And that's really what the program's all about. It's not to replace any program in the world, it's to add to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds super interesting, even in that relatively high level description that you gave us on it. So good stuff, KCMP. Hey, we're about a little more than a month away from Junior Gold. And I love it when folks like you from Florida and everywhere else get to descend upon Wisconsin. And that's how it's going to be this year at Junior Gold.
And
So,
it'll be warm.
yeah, it will. It will. Tell us about what you'll be up to while those events are going on.
Well, of course, we're going to be like any other college coach. We're going to be looking for talent.
Yeah.
And we have two booths of course, the expo, which is Danielle will be at the training center booth, and I'll be manning the Weber booth. Hopefully, I'll have a new coach hired by then, and I'll have somebody in the booth with me, and he'll be rotating. He or she will be rotating back and forth. So we'll be doing that. Of course, we'll be at some of the squads, watching for players. We'll have about 60 customers there as well. So I've always pulled double duty supporting our customers. There was a time about the first 10 years, I think, when I was at Kegel, about 30% of Team USA came out of Florida and trained at Kegel. Really proud of that, especially back when they used to have the World Youth Championships, the World Team Championships. We used to send a team from Kegel there every year. I know we won it a couple of times, finished second a couple of times when I was first there, and Randy and Stephen Padilla were coaching the teams for Kegel. Then we also have a junior cold prep event that'll be held in an adjacent bowling center, and we'll have a flyer up on that. So on the Sunday before the Monday of Junior Gold starts, we'll be at a center, and you can come by and schedule an hour with me, and hopefully the new coach, where I look at your arsenal. We put out short, medium, and long pattern. We look at what you have. We give you some suggestion and some surface strategies for the sequencing. And then we look at your game a little bit, and we're always able to pick out one or two things that'll help you right in the moment, even if it has to do with spare shooting strategy. And we fill up all the time. So that'll be on that Sunday prior to the Monday. And we schedule them at hour increments.
Okay.
So I'm always very busy. My phone, the parents have a hotline to my bat phone, or they send up the bat signal. Hey, can you be on, the 6 p.m. squad at this particular center? My son or my daughter's 20 pins out of the cut. Man, they would really love for you to be there. And, because USBC, I won't say discourage coaching, but we're not allowed. Back in the day, I used to be able to go down into the bowler circle and coach. Me and Randy used to go down to the bowler circle at Junior Gold back when they had 11 on the pair. I don't know if everybody remembers that. There used to be 11 on the pair and the squad.
Wow.
So now they have they have tape where it's cordoned off, where it separates the athletes from the parents and the coaches, which is good. It just makes it more difficult. The kids are going to have to come back and talk to me.
Sure.
Because as soon as I cross that line, somebody from USBC comes swooping down out of the rafters, and I get shocked. Like, you're crossing that line. How dare you? So I try to make sure, and then of course I block the sun, so I have to make sure that I'm not blocking the view of somebody's son or daughter. And I don't move as fast as I used to, Andrew. So I got to really be careful.
Yeah. Good stuff either way. Hey, if anybody out there wants more information, be it on the training center coaching, be it on KCMP, on the position that you're looking to fill, or even Junior Gold stuff, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can go to kegeltrainingcenter.com or you can go to our Facebook page. You can contact me on my cell phone, 210-219-4797. I take calls all day and night. It's crazy. I get calls from Australia, 10 o'clock at night. And I love it. I think it's great because bowling is such a small neighborhood around the world.
Yeah.
And, I was talking to my Macau players, trying to get to know them a little bit. Very nice people. And super, just really good how they threw it. And in talking with them, of course, they come from a whole nother country and they're getting ready to go to Singapore Open when they leave here. But talking to them, when you talk to bowlers, it doesn't matter where they're from,
Yeah.
Andrew. They use the same vocabulary, they have the same complaints, they have the same fears, you know. They're talking about ball reaction and they like this ball and they don't like that ball. And I like my grips turned a certain way. And, I set up like this because I want to do that. And it's just really funny. Bowling is such a universal sport. And it doesn't matter the language. It's all the bowlers are bowlers, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We're one family that may appear big on the surface, but really we're pretty small. Del, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. Always enjoy when we get to catch up. Great stuff there. And folks, for more information on IPSIA, please remember to go to ipsia.com. That's your place to find out about membership, the benefits thereof. And if you like what you saw here today, please feel free, like this video, subscribe to the channel. It really is the easiest and best way to help us continue to make great bowling content.